Brilliant. So welcome everybody. We are here today for the non-clinical consulting masterclass for doctors. Warm welcome to you all. This is a really exciting topic because it is a skill that I believe that every doctor needs to know and learn, whether you are planning to go into consulting for yourself or not, because it's a great fallback option if for whatever reason you're unable to get a job in the time frame that you're looking for, but also it's a way to really get that autonomy and impact that you really deserve as a doctor. So before I start, there's quite a few of you here, which is great, and I'm going to get to know you a little bit better. But what I'll ask just to start off with, actually, since we're here, if you would like to, could you put your camera on and introduce yourself? So I will start with Sandrine. Hey, Sandrine.
Hi.
Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. How are you doing after your baby?
Yeah, not sleeping, but that's cool.
Yeah, with two, it's always a bit hectic.
We need to catch up about that. But yeah.
I'm Sandrine. I'm currently doing working at CHDA in disability medicine, but going to move across into occupational medicine actually in a month and a bit at HCA.
Yeah.
And my background, I have a special interest in gerontology. So my ultimate goal is helping people to stay in work for as long as they choose to.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Great you're going into OcMed. Love it. Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee, and I'm an expert obesity doctor looking to bridge the gap between patients and the pharma industry.
Nice, nice. We love you, Lee. Bridge.
Hi there, my name's Bridge. I'm currently a radiology registrar in Cambridge.
Nice. And what brings you here?
What brings me here is looking to get into consulting, even setting up a coaching business.
Nice, nice. Welcome. This will definitely work for you. Blessing, hey. Oh, she's frozen. She's frozen. Okay, next person. Anyone else that wants to intro? Oh, Blessing's back. Hey, Blessing.
Hey, sorry, my connection is really bad. Hi, I'm Blessing. I'm a GP, really interested in holistic medicine and sort of seeing the full picture in health norms.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining. Really great to see you. Gabrielle.
Hello, I'm a neurodevelopmental psychiatrist and just want to learn a bit more about consulting.
Nice, nice. Anything in particular you're looking to get into, Gabrielle?
So I've been asked to sort of share clinical knowledge, but just wanted to know what's out there, what the possibilities are. Thanks.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks. Nice to meet you. Hasanthi.
Hiya, I'm a consultant anaesthetist and I'm looking to get into kind of consulting around global health.
Brilliant, brilliant. Welcome, welcome. We've got Elson.
Hi, I'm Elson. I'm currently a GP trainee, and I'm interested to get into sort of health tech consulting.
Nice. Great place to be. Really lovely to meet you. Any particular area you're interested in?
Kind of looking like remote monitoring, telemedicine, like health apps, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Great, great. Welcome. Tim.
Hi, how are you going?
Hey.
I'm also a consultant anaesthetist up in Scotland, but I've got other interests in medical education and lifestyle medicine, and I'm wondering if I can bring those to a consulting role.
You absolutely can. Welcome. Joanna. Muted.
Hi, I'm Joanna. I'm a psychiatrist, and I'm interested in exploring health tech, and in particularly linked with mental illness. Yeah.
Great, brilliant. Welcome. Thank you. Emma.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm an emergency medicine consultant, locum in at present, and I'm looking for any avenue out of my current situation, if I'm honest. So I dabble in some aesthetics, I do some medical legal things, and I'm just looking for a more permanent option.
Brilliant. And so is it more permanent? What is this more permanent option? Is it non-clinical consulting, do you think?
I'm looking for something that is non-clinical, and I've looked at lots of your stuff online for consulting and thought that could be something that sparks a bit of interest. So.
Great. I definitely hope so. Is there anyone else that would like to intro before we get started? We've got Carla.
Hi, hello.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Carla and Carlo.
Oh. Go ahead, Carla.
Okay. I'm Carla. I'm a GP trainee. I'm interested in getting into coaching for women physicians. So I think this will be a very good masterclass for me.
Nice, Carla. Where was your clarity statement in that? So just
sorry. Oh, it's been a while. Sorry.
Beta. But no, it's good. It's good. Carlo.
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Carlo.
Hey, Carlo. Great to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm a consultant surgeon and in London, and I'm interested into medical devices industry, medtech.
Great, brilliant. Is there anyone else that we have missed? I mean, if you're in the chat room, please feel free to chat it up as well and introduce yourselves. And we've got a few more people joining. But anyway, let's get started. So thank you so much for those intros. It's awesome. So for those of you who are not presenting, which is pretty much everybody, could you please turn off your camera and let's get started, apart from me, obviously. So, and congratulations, by the way, congratulations so much for actually making it to this masterclass. Blessing, could you just turn off your camera if that's okay? Congratulations for joining us and taking this time to invest in yourself. So by the end of this masterclass, I want you to be at least one step closer to growing in confidence. Confidence being the key really to get into and thrive as a non-clinical consultant. You can use this as a really great entry point into industry. And I also want to make sure that you feel like you have the ability to position yourself in a way that you can grow in your practice. And this could be something that you're doing already. So in order to get the most value out of this time, I want to make sure that, one, you minimize any distractions that you have. So door closed, phones on silent, etc. No other kind of Chrome or Safari in the background, because that's a very easy distraction. I do that all the time. Take the time to really absorb. So for some of you, there may be a lot of new concepts that we're introducing or I'm introducing. That's fine. We are recording this. So remember, we will be you can watch the recording after this is over. And just there's lots of engagement opportunities as well. I want to really encourage you to ask as many questions as possible. No question is a silly question. And that's also where you're going to get the most value, because it will be specific to you. And also after this masterclass, you will have the opportunity to reach out to us and book in a strategy call, which is a one-to-one call to talk about if you're a non-member or if you're a non-incubator member, to talk about your particular journey, your situation. We can help you get on that journey. That is very important to us. So without further ado, let's go to quick intros from myself. So as you know, I'm Abena. I'm the founder of MedicFootprints. I'm an OC health consultant and a lot of other lofty things I've put here, but mostly I've had a really great amount of insight into working in the private sector and how it compares to the NHS or the public sector. I've got a wealth of knowledge and experience mentoring and supporting doctors moving into industry, but I've also worked with the other side, so companies who are hiring doctors, companies who are consulting with doctors, companies who are growing, and all, you know, so I am very well positioned to help you in your journey. So please, please, please make the most of that. And you know, the reason why I put like my baby in here, so I did have a baby in the last year, but I'm all about lifestyle and I'm all about sustainable careers. So I'm all about not killing yourself, but still getting ahead as far as you can. So that's an important part of what we'll be talking about in this masterclass today. Over to Ola.
Hi everyone, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. I was up until recently practicing as a consultant in intensive care and acute medicine, but I had decided that there are better things for me to do. I joined MedicFootprints and I've been working with them for, it's almost going to be a year now, and working as a Chief Growth Officer. I also bring marketing experience from an online business that I run on the side, and that is an international business in 3 different countries. I've written a book, I've traveled. I'm very big on lifestyle and being able to do several things at the same time that, you know, answer to your calling and answer to your passion. And yeah, hence my work with MedicFootprints and helping doctors to be able to achieve that.
Awesome, thank you so much. And lovely to meet everyone that's put in the chat. We've got Rob, we've got Eileen, who is a GP linked to get into industry. Rob's psychiatrist. We've got Lisa, who's a GP in lifestyle medicine and coaching. Elsa is eating. Great. So why are we running this masterclass? As you know, we've recognized that over the years, many doctors do struggle to get into industry because you're waiting for a job, right? It's like, when is a job going to come up that I can apply for and get? And the reality is we're not familiar with other ways of working, especially the whole concept of working for ourselves. So for many of you, this may feel alien, it may feel a bit risky, and you think it's something for other people to do, but actually it's one of those really, really accessible ways of working. So today we're going to show you really how to do it the best way, well, the way that I would advise you go about doing it. Obviously, there's a million and one ways to do these things, but this is the easiest way for you to get in and to industry, that is, and to develop the dream alternative career that you're looking for. And whether that's you do it on the side, whether you do it full time, you know, this is the way in. So I passionately believe this is the right way for doctors. But as you know, whatever way that we teach you today, it's really important that you take it, modify it as you see fit for yourself, because everyone has different priorities and requirements. So these are some of the challenges that you may be experiencing or facing, especially moving into industry. And as you know, we are a global platform which is dedicated to doctors changing careers, alternative careers, and we are very much mission driven in connecting doctors with diverse career opportunities. We've been going on for nearly 10 years next year. Woohoo! I cannot believe I'm actually saying that, but yes, it has been that long. And you know, we do focus on helping doctors change careers, with the concept that we know most of us, when we leave medicine or we decide to do something else, it's also a lifestyle choice. There are lots of push factors we know in the NHS. And so it's about finding careers that will help us to grow professionally and achieve what we want to achieve, but also do it in a sustainable way, being the key word. And believe me, it's so easy to burn out when you're working for yourself. So it's really important you're mindful of that. So as you know, when you're moving to industry, you can do it on your own, or you can invest in a tribe of people. So I'm really glad that everyone got to meet each other, because a lot of people do feel very much alone in their journey. And we also run the incubator, which is a program that gets doctors into industry faster. And so some of our fellows are on this masterclass today. That includes some one-to-one and some group mentoring masterclasses and some special intros to our extensive network that helps them get ahead. And we do work with companies. So I mentioned we worked on both sides. We work with them mainly as a recruitment and employer branding partner. So you are in the right place if you're actively looking for non-clinical opportunities in industry. You may be looking to work for yourself, hence non-clinical. And I always put in the money thing, because doctors are not very good at talking about money. But money is important, right? We need it to live. We need it to pay our bills. Doctors are striking because of money. That is the tip of the iceberg, we know. But it's really important that you're aiming, especially when you're going into consulting, you're aiming for a highish income, because that gives you the flexibility to have more time off, to choose the jobs that you want and to influence where you want to do. It is a burnout protection strategy. That's what I say about really looking to command a higher income than you probably normally would. But we'll talk a bit more about that. Gives you more options. And this masterclass is here to really save you on time, right? It's designed to give you the insights you need to make that massive mindset shift. So a lot of this is mindset. It's not really about, I mean, there's the knowledge bit, which is important that you can learn, but it's about your mindset to say, yes, I can do this. I can become a consultant. I can move to industry. My knowledge, my background, what I have now is valuable. Not like I need to go and do a million other qualifications to do it. What you know and what you have now is of significant value to a lot of people in this world. So the question is, how are you going to deliver that package and sell it out and really make an impact on a greater scale? So before we get started, I just want to make sure we've got a lot of content. As I mentioned, I really want to make sure where we focus our attentions for you today. So can we set up the poll, Ola? So the first question is, I've forgotten what the first question is. Yeah, where are you on your consulting journey? So if you could fill in this poll really quickly.
It's not allowing me.
I don't know. Let me see.
It's saying something with my login.
Let's see if I can pull it up here. It says you've logged into another device, your polling section is like, okay, fine. So we have a technical issue. So it'd be really useful if you could write in the chat box, whereabouts are you now on your consulting journey? So are you at the beginning? Are you just exploring? Are you actually getting to you want to get started like imminently, or are you currently consulting? So are you at the beginning? You're exploring? Are you imminently about to start? Are you consulting right now and you're just looking for validation that what you're doing is the right thing? So if you could put that in the chat box, that'd be really helpful. Beginning, want to get started. Beginning, want to get started. Awesome. Want to get started. Nice. Left the NHS. Great. Exploring. Thanks, Carlo. Okay, so mainly want to get started, and that's great. The second question we have, so let me go back and to share my screen. So the second question is, which of these topics would be the one that would be most helpful for you at this time? So what is consulting, the essentials of setting yourself up, how to find clients that will pay, and how to maximize your earning? So which of these topics would be the most useful for you at this time? The essentials, 2 and 3, the essentials, how to find clients, the essentials, 1, 2, 3, pick one, guys, just one. The essentials. Okay, so let's spend a bit more time on the essentials. Sorry, 1 and 4. I said 1. Just choose one. 4. Thank you, Elsa. Okay, great. How to find clients. Okay, great. So most people have said the essentials, which is really useful, because actually I think the essentials is one of the longest sections. Okay, great. Let's get going, and obviously make sure you ask questions. So I think the easiest way to ask questions is to put them in the chat box. If they're immediately relevant, I'll try and answer them, or Ola will also collate them in her mind, and when we have a break we'll also answer them. So feel free to just mind splurge if you've got any questions. Let's start with the case study. So Mina GP wants to get into health tech, and she is struggling to get in because of all the competition that goes with applying for a job. So in order for her to get into health tech in general, what other options does she have to get involved in the health tech industry or sphere sooner? So not a trick question. Again, put in the chat box, what other ways besides getting a job can she explore or do to actually get into the industry? Not a trick question. Networking. Startup, great. Work as an intern at a company, yes, definitely. That's a really great way. Post on LinkedIn. About what, Bridge? Consult, yes, Lee. Network. Okay, great. I'm interested about this network thing, because obviously network leads to something. So what's she networking for? Article about health tech. Yes, writing. That's great. Medical content, writing again. Awesome. So we've got some really great ideas here, actually. What else have we got coming through? Network with those who are in business via LinkedIn. Formal health tech consultant with a website, networking and reaching out to key people. Okay, great. So yes, these are all absolutely legitimate ways. So what we're looking at, I mean, obviously there's a wide range, an unlimited range of options actually, that doesn't involve simply getting a job, but still will get her into industry. So this is just a very non-exhaustive list of ways you can get in to the industry without waiting for a job. And, you know, some of you may come across that whole barrier of like, you don't have industry experience. This is how you get in and get industry experience, right? By actually doing something that's in health tech. So that could be writing, that could be teaching, that could be training, that could be coaching some people in health tech. It doesn't matter, it's in health tech. So as you can see, there's a whole wide range of things that she could potentially do. When you guys said network, it's really important to be clear as to why she is networking rather than the kind of networking itself. So yes, networking to get a job, networking to get a project, networking to get an opportunity. It's very easy to get into the industry, as you can see. Posting, she could simply post on LinkedIn, absolutely. And she could just post about her love of health tech or something, or topic, or repost it, whatever. That is another way to get into industry and build her network. So I'm really glad that you all had insight as to the ways that she could explore beyond getting that job. If you've listened to me on any of my podcasts, you know that I talk about these doors. There's three main ways of getting into industry or health tech. The front door, which is the door we're used to, which is applying for a job gets advertised, we apply for it, we hope for the best, right? But the reality is the competition is high, and statistically your chances of getting that job is relatively low, right? And so going into industry, there are other ways to get in, and actually these are where most of the opportunities lie. Right, so the side door is basically when you're already in a company. So for example, you're working as a GP in a health tech, like a private provider, so like Teladoc Health, Bupa, whatever. And they have lots of other non-clinical opportunities in that company, whether they create it for you or they advertise it internally, or you pitch something and then it's created for you, right? So that is another really great way to get an opportunity. Another is the back door, where you get referred in by someone that you know, hence why the market, your network is really important. Going back to the side door, consulting is another way you can get in to a company by consulting through a project or any of those things that I mentioned in the last slide. And if you do well in that company with the project, they will create a job, they will keep you, they want to keep you or they want to keep paying you, one of the two. Right. And so the whole moral of this is that the chances of you getting into industry or to the job or the dream company you want to work in substantially increases through getting in somehow. If you can't get a job, or consulting is another great way to get in. How do you find project work? We'll come to that, Sandrine. We will come to that. Okay. So let's talk about what is consulting. So what is consulting? Again, chat box, please. again, not a trick question either. Because when I starting MedicFootprints, management consultancy always came up, but no, I never really, it wasn't really very clear as to what consulting actually was. So I'd love to hear your definition of consulting. Being a subject matter expert, great. Lending your expert view for a project, yes, Shah. Selling your expertise, yes. Who's that? That was Joanna, yes, absolutely, spot on. Carla, yes. Tim, yes. Carlo, advising, leveraging. So all of you are right, spot on. So it is a broad term, very, very, very broad term for providing your expertise to someone or a company who will pay you. So it's usually a company that you'll be consulting with, but your way in will usually be through a person who sponsors you and says, hey, yes, let's work with you and pay you. So you're always going to be working externally as a subcontractor or an external party. And usually it's for a limited period of time. That limited period could be a day or even like half a day, even like an hour, or it also could be several years because we've seen both, right? It depends on the company. It depends on your arrangement. So expert, how do you define an expert? And like already people have touched upon that. The expert is, you know more than the person who is paying for your services, right? That's it. It doesn't mean that you've got to have a PhD or be a consultant or anything loftier than that. You could not even be a doctor and still be seen as an expert, as long as you have a good grasp of your subject matter that you want to be known for, and another company values you for that subject matter, you are the expert. And that is what you're being hired for. As you know, in medicine, we're used to that hierarchy of, you know, senior, junior, this, and our value is attributed to how junior or to how senior we are. So in industry, that does not really matter as much, if at all, in some cases. Like they're really more interested in, what do you know? Do you really understand the problem that the company is facing? And can you help solve that problem with the knowledge and the background that you have? And you may not be able to like directly solve the problem. And you don't want to directly solve the problem because you want to, in order for a great outcome, you want to be working with them as part of a team, so that you help them come to that solution. You help them work towards that solution, whatever it is you're doing. And if they see value in your skill set, they will pay you for it, or they'll say, yeah, it's worth our time from the problem that we have. You know, I've seen doctors consult at various stages in their careers, from medical student to post-retirement, right? Some, like a lot of them do use their medical knowledge. Why not? Of course. But most of the time, the success is based on a mindset, and be leveraging the soft skills, the softer skills, not the technical, you know this much about medicine, the softer skills that industry craves and needs, such as talked about writing, content creation, leadership, decision-making, working across teams, the analytical skills we have, the research skills we have, the leadership, you know, and so on and so on and so on. So I'm sure that we've got a good grasp of what consulting and expert means. So another question for you I have. What benefits do you hope to get out of independent consulting? So again, in the chat box, what's drawn you to this as a career option or a way in? Being your own boss, hell yeah. Opinion advice, flexibility, more control, job satisfaction, yes. Location independent, Santhi. Anyone else? Further flexibility, yes. Doing something you love, virtual working, pay, yes. Autonomy and creativity, autonomy, specific niche. That's a really great way of exploring and really getting to know your niche. Absolutely. Making more change, sustainable career and flexibility can lead to an employee role. Yes, it can do. And it absolutely has. And I've got a friend of mine, whose name I won't mention, who actually graduated from my university. You'll know he's Nottingham University, who again had a very illustrious history of not actually practicing medicine, but graduated and then started consulting for a known telemedicine company, who and that person, after consulting with them, eventually actually got a job as a chief operating officer for that same company. So I mean, that's just an example of how consulting can lead to quite lofty positions, right? If you're in the right place at the right time. So yeah, thank you so much for all of that. And you know, you've mentioned all of these things. Influence and impact, I'm not sure if that was mentioned particularly. Talked about working part-time. Building your authority and credibility is in some ways easier as a non-clinical consultant than you would do when you've got an employer standing over you. You get to pick and choose what you want to do. So I remember doing A&E, and like you'd see what was coming in and see the triaging, and I was like, I don't want to see that, I want to see that. But you weren't allowed to do that. But in this case, you can just do that, just cherry pick what's coming through, right? And a really broad exposure and new experiences. So you get to work across, have the landscape view of everything that's going on in your industry without having to 100% commit to anything. And that is a powerful position to be in. And actually companies will pay you for that in itself, right? So great, you've got that covered. And then, you know, the grass is green, but it's not always green. There's always kind of cons to any career option or any pathway you choose. So what we see, what we found with non-clinical consulting, one of the biggest challenges is, depending on what you're doing, but sometimes finding clients and works that fit with you, and we'll talk about that. Time management, a big thing, because you are your own boss, and it's so easy to overwork. As doctors, we're not very good at underworking, but we're great at overworking. So it's really important to manage that. I talked earlier about making sure that when you're working with a company, you can work with them, not for them, because you want them to collaboratively get to that goal. Because I find that if you go in and you consult with a company, say you should do X, Y, and Z, and they do none of that, you haven't reached a goal, and they don't necessarily get the value from you. So it's really important that part of your strategy in working with a company is to work with them, and actually a lot of coaching is involved in that. Pricing, as doctors, we don't really put a price on our services, especially when you begin, you're like, not sure how much to charge. We talk about that. Financial uncertainty. So obviously if you're 100% reliant on that as an income, and you don't have an ongoing pipeline of potential clients, then your tank may run dry. But again, there's lots of ways to mitigate that as well. The other thing I haven't put on here that my IFA reminded me of, if you're completely self-employed, and this isn't specific to consulting, if you're completely self-employed and say you're applying for a mortgage, for example, the industry or the banks don't like self-employed people in general, and they just don't treat us very well. So it's not like you can't get a mortgage, because I got a mortgage and I'm completely self-employed, but it can be a little bit trickier to prove your income. There are different ways to do it. It really depends on how good your financial broker is. But there's lots of other things to think about. But if you're doing it on the side and it's a secondary income, great. If you're doing it full time, it's great, but just make sure you're set up in the right way to really reap the benefits of that. So that's just what is consulting. At this point, are there any questions based on what I've said so far? When I have my interview practice at the bank based on mortgage only on my husband's income. Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? They're just traditional banks. Things are changing, but yeah, it's about finding a bank that really will look at the whole picture, not just someone's employed job or PAYE slip. Any other questions before we move on? No. Okay, great. So we've got that in the bank. So essentials on setting yourself up. So this is what people want to know the most of. So I talk about mindset quite a lot, and you think, oh, this is a bit wishy-washy. Can you move on to the technical stuff and how to do a website? So I'm not going to tell you how to do a website, guys, if you're expecting that. I will talk a little bit about it though. Mindset is so important. I think I personally underestimated how important it is. It can be your greatest ally when you're changing careers, and can also be your biggest blocker to whether you are successful. And I find that most doctors, including myself, they struggle because the industry mindset is very different from that in the public sector or the NHS. So we've talked about scarcity mindset in the past with our masterclasses, and the fear of limited resources and opportunities leading to making short-term decisions over investing in our longer-term goals. So an example of this could be, say you're worrying about lack of money, or feeling like you need to take a pay cut when moving careers just so you can do it, or you risk not doing anything at all. Although you know that the job that you're in is really dragging you down. But whatever you decide to do in industry, it's so important to have your big why. And we talk about that. And this is what I really emphasize in the incubator. Have your big why, because that why will keep you going when things are very, very difficult. And things will get difficult and uncomfortable, which is positive because it means that you're learning and change is happening. It's a change that you need to see to move to industry. It's important to have a real focus, and I talk about that on your career path, than try to do a lot of things at the same time. And I talk from a personal perspective. I will try and do a lot of things at the same time, and that then takes away from the focus, and that slows me down. And I see that mirrored in pretty much most doctors we mentor, because there's so many opportunities available to us, right? We want to try everything. So I always recommend focus on one thing that you're most leaning towards and really invest as much as you can into it. If it doesn't work out after a defined period of time, then just move on. But it's better to do it that way than try and do everything, because it's very difficult to do everything well. I always say, get rid of the whole junior versus senior divide in your mind, because that won't really serve you in the same way it does in the NHS. And as I reminded you, there are millions of people who really benefit from you as an individual, forgetting you're a doctor, what you bring to the table, your unique skill sets that make you different from the doctor that's next to you. And your job is to make sure you can recognize what those are, communicate that and sell that to any company or that would be interested in your services. And so just a reminder, there's lots of opportunities. There's unlimited opportunities in this world. Those that are created for anyone, which are the jobs you see advertised. Those that are created for you, which is the side door route, if you do really well, or as a consultant in a company. And those that you can create yourself, again, either being a consultant, non-clinical consultant, or being self-employed, or starting up your own business. You can afford to be picky. You are doctors, you are very, very talented, and don't forget that. And we don't want you to settle. So next case study. James is a radiologist, wants to get into health tech. What areas of health tech would he best be suited to? And why? So again, answers in the chat box, please. He's a radiologist. So we know that health tech is a massive sector that essentially is health. So are there any areas that you were aware of in health tech that he could probably do quite well in as a first step into industry? Medical devices, yes, potentially. AI, yes, absolutely. There's a lot of AI going on in radiology at the moment. Yeah, Bridge. AI is a natural extension, absolutely. Diagnostics, another easy way. AI, yes. And I mean, again, very not trick question. What's his unfair advantage? So I'd actually love to hear from Bridge. What's his unfair advantage in going into AI diagnostics?
I think, well, speaking as a radiologist, I think it's just something we deal in on a daily basis. I mean, here at where I work, we have regular lectures on AI. We have industry experts coming in and speaking to us, showing us their new products and how it can improve our workflow and our work list. So I think it's just, we get exposed to it more than any other specialty in the hospital.
Great. I mean, that's a great summary. And I would say your unfair advantage is you've mentioned the knowledge, you've mentioned the network. Don't underestimate all of those lectures and talks. That is your network. That is what you should be tapping into. It's who you know as well. And also, you know how the NHS works and the decision-making process that goes into whether they buy into certain services or not. And also the usability of a lot of these platforms, right, that you've been shown how to use, or you might be using on a day-to-day basis. So actually, he's got a lot of fair advantage. He's got a lot of knowledge of industry, and he hasn't actually left his NHS job. Right, so this is an example that we need to think about what is literally immediately around us that we can use to leverage and say, my industry experience is this X, Y, and Z. As long as you can really define it, that is industry experience, right? Great. So as I mentioned, health tech. Oh my God, this image for some reason is not coming up. Well, it is coming up actually. It's coming up on your screens, right? It's not coming up on mine for some reason. But anyway, tip of the iceberg, health tech is too general. I always say, if you're saying you want to get into health tech, it's too general. Health tech is health. And so we've already talked about a variety of different options for James in particular, AI, big data, software. But, you know, we're talking about what is the easiest way for him to get into industry, the most natural way, and then he can expand his specialist interest from there, depending on his network. So the question is, where can you fit in if you're someone's going to health tech or another industry? So let's move on to the power of the niche. So what is a niche? Chat box. What is a niche? Not a trick question again. Small, okay, where you're a specialist, small area of interest, specialism. Well-defined area of specialty. Yes. Nail on the head. Yes. So, and why is niching important in general? Okay, let's look at our specialist, radiologist, public health person, or med person. Specific interest, your advantage, unique selling point. You can provide something that is not widely available. Yes. You can hone your skills and specific offer. Yes. You need to be clear on what you do offer. Yes. Concentrate and develop deep knowledge in one area where you can be the best. Yes. Absolutely, guys. So the great thing about niching, like as doctors, is that you become your subject matter expert. You can become an authority much more easy. You get known for who you are. Not to say if you're not a subject matter expert and you're generalist, it's not of value. But when we're talking specifically about going into non-clinical consulting and you want to get into industry and get into industry quickly, it's better to choose a very specific area, because again, that's all about focus. I talked about focus earlier. This is why niching is important, because we're busy people, we don't have much time, and we want to get to industry quicker. So it's important to have a very specific focus. So the network is smaller, it's easier to dominate that area, and you can build your authority quickly. And because there's fewer of you doing what you do, you can also command a higher salary. So these are the reasons why it's great to niche down. My coach says the further you can niche down, the better, really, because you will be known for working in a very specific area. It also gives your clients or your potential clients clarity on your business function and like who you are, right? They want clarity to make decision making easier for them, right? And so once you've found your own niche, you can narrow your focus and become more efficient and significant in your progress. You'll have more opportunities available to you at the tip of your fingers, right? So another exercise, this is officially exercise 1 actually. So right, so I really want you to identify, some of you probably already have a niche, right? But this is the process that I use to clarify, help you clarify or pick a niche, because sometimes it's quite difficult to do that. So think of a very specific problem that you're passionate about addressing that affects companies, right? So it has to be a PPC, a problem that you're passionate about that affects companies. So that's the first thing. The second bit is the problem an expensive problem, right? There's no point solving non-expensive problems, and I'll tell you about that. We talked about that a little bit in the sense that if it's an expensive problem, you'll find more clients are willing to pay you to help them fix that solution. If it's not an expensive problem, you're not going to get any work. And are you at a fair advantage as a doctor in solving this problem? So this is for this masterclass is for doctors. We're all about leveraging your own personal doctor brand. And this is another way how you find out your USP to really, really stand out in your niche, because there aren't going to be that many doctors doing what you do, any doctors, if you choose the right niche, that are doing what you do. So this is another way to really stand out amongst your competitors. So has anyone got any niches that they want to share with us today? I'm going to pick Lee.
Why me?
Because you've got it down.
I've got a niche. So my niche is obesity medicine. I'm an obesity expert, bariatric surgeon.
So what is the problem you're solving?
One of the big issues is how we get the new class of obesity medicines actually to patients, because there's very little or no infrastructure in the NHS currently to do that.
Great. And is this an expensive problem for the clients you're targeting? Who are you targeting?
Big pharma companies that stand to make billions from the drugs, but if they can't get them to patients, they will make a lot less money.
Great. And are you at an unfair advantage as a doctor?
I'd like to think so, yes. Because I understand the system. I understand where it works and where it doesn't, and what patients want, what payers want, and what doctors want.
Great. Spot on. Spot on. We've talked. Great stuff. So that's a really great example of what we're talking about. So actually, this is one of the examples. So pharma companies lack knowledge on how to sell a drug to healthcare providers. So simply spoken, femtech companies lack clinical input at an early stage. Media companies need expert healthcare input fast when there is breaking news. Well, healthcare providers spend a lot of time preparing for CQC inspections, which drains on their workforce resources. These are all seen as relatively expensive. They're problems. If this is for you, you could be passionate about solving this problem. They're all affecting companies. They're all generally expensive problems in many ways. And what was the final point? What was the final point? An unfair advantage as a doctor? So would you say that all of these would put you at an unfair advantage as a doctor if you solve these problems? What do you think, Ola?
Yes, with the background knowledge that you're going to be having and the experience and your skills bringing into the table. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So all of these are meant to be examples of a great PPC and a great way to identify your non-clinical niche. So you're still a doctor in these examples, but you're leveraging your background, your experience, your connection, etc., but you don't have to see patients to do it. So when we talk about niching and describing our niches, talked about the importance of niching down, depth in your niche. So with the pharma example, you could describe yourself as a pharma medical advisor, but it's even better to describe yourself as a medical advisor specializing in go-to-market strategies for big pharma, as an example. Same with the femtech example. Instead of saying I'm a femtech advisor, you can say I'm a fractional CMO, chief medical officer, for early stage femtech companies. So for clients who are hearing you speak, they're like, oh, that could be for me, or that's definitely not for me. You make it easy for them to make a decision as to A, whether you're for them, or B, whether they can refer you easily. Especially if you're in that very specific niche, they'll be able to think about whether you're for someone else. So Joanna says, what about if it's a problem that is not financially quantified, like patient satisfaction with services? Well, everything is financially quantified eventually. So if it's services, someone is paying for those services, right? It may not be the patients themselves, but there is going to be a payer. And ideally, your client should be the payer or related to the payer. If that makes any sense. Where patient satisfaction is important to them, otherwise they lose the contract, for example. Does that make any sense? Maybe. Yes, it does. Great. Talked about the media companies example and the healthcare providers. So yeah. So the most important thing is just to remember when you're setting yourself up as a non-clinical consultant, it's important to start seeing yourself as a product. And it's a bit difficult to say, oh, we're actually selling, because it helps you actually step outside of yourself and say, hey, I'm a product. This is a service that I'm providing as a product, and it's being delivered by a business which I've set up kind of behind this. But you are the product of your business. And it's very weird to think about it initially. But, you know, this is what we're, as doctors in NHS, we are being sold as products. Like, there's no difference here. We're still being sold as products, right? We are being paid to deliver a service, right? So we are the product of the NHS. So when you are consulting, you are the product of yourself, your own business. So in order to be successful and be able to do this effectively, you must have a plan, at least written down and outlined, that supports that. So has anyone seen this before? No. Carla, have you seen this before? No. Carla, have you seen this before? No. Carla's not saying anything. Go, should I have seen it before? To do one, yes. What is this, Carla? I forgot the name. Hey! It's all right. So again, this is about business, guys. And this is big LOL. This is what they call the lean canvas. So this is like a super, yes, lean canvas, Joanna. So it's a super easy way to write your business plan without it being like a novel of War and Peace, right? It's just a way to write down your thoughts in a coherent way to demonstrate you've at least thought about how you're going to go to market. I'm not going to go into this in any detail, to be honest. I don't want to distract you, but I would say we can get this off for you, or you can Google this. This is widely available, but it's really important, because what we see is a lot of doctors will go in and say, this is a solution that I've got, and I want to go in and like sell that solution. It's like number one mistake that most entrepreneurs will make, or consulting people will make. You don't go on with that solution. You go in, I make this problem all the time as well. You go in with the problem. So you go in with the in-depth knowledge of understanding the problem that your potential clients experience. The deeper you know the problem, the better you can serve them and sell your services to them, right? So this is why this canvas starts with the problem. If you don't know what problems your target market are facing, you need to do more research into that problem. And by doing more research, it's a great way to also get some opportunities flowing as well, just by talking to people, having conversations, right? For example, for those of you coming to this masterclass today, if you're not part of our incubator, you came to this masterclass because you felt that what we'd written on our events, it solved a problem that you were facing, because we've taken the time to really understand the depth of that problem, and therefore you chose to invest in this. It's the same principles apply, right? So I would say, please do spend at least a few hours of your time on this or something like this, but just for your own benefit, to make sure you thought through this, because this will impact on your ability to get consulting jobs. Yes, some people can roll into it without thinking about it, but this is really for people who really want to make, at least just get one job that pays well. Because at the end of the day, you don't really need that many jobs to pay well and to replace your own. You could just get one job, right? Just one. But you really have to position yourself to make the most out of it. And these are some other questions that you could potentially ask yourself. These are all very important questions. Time is a big factor. How much do you want to actually spend consulting? Why are you even doing it? How much do you want to earn? What do you need to do to build up your confidence? What is your timeline for getting started? What would hold you back for getting started? Like, we're held back a lot of the times by what's going up in here and other life stuff. And can you stop that from holding you back, right? And what can you do to mitigate that? So it's all about how can you de-risk yourself from your own business, so to speak. So just a brief story. check out this podcast with James McFetrick. So I'm all about sharing stories, especially when people are at the beginning of their journey. So I did a podcast on this about consulting and medical education. So James is an EM doctor, emergency medicine. He saw an opportunity to go into medical education with healthcare businesses. Right, he'd been in an emergency medicine doctor for 20 years, but don't let that put you off. You don't need to have worked in emergency medicine for 20 years, by the way, to do this. But he set up a business. It's a solopreneur, it's just him, where he is selling, he basically sells to primary care practices, basic life support, defib training, sepsis awareness, etc., etc. So this is a form of consulting in itself. And in the episode, we talk about his journey, his motivations to do this, and the things he's had to think about to actually get started, but also about leveraging his doctor brand, because there are lots of companies doing this, but how is he standing out in the wider market? So I would 100% recommend that you check that out. So we're at the end of the essentials to getting started. Do you have any questions on those essentials? Some of you, it may be, hey, I knew all this, cool, but I didn't hear anyone say yes to the lean canvas, so I'm sure you didn't know all of this. But is there anything that's not clear, anything that you think may be an essential that I haven't covered, anything that doesn't make any sense? How about you, Ola? Was there anything that didn't make any sense? It was like, what the hell are you talking about?
No, it was all clear as mud, Abena. Crystal clear, crystal clear.
Silence. I'm assuming everyone, yeah, anyone? I'm assuming, okay, it might be a silly question, it never is. Can you, in the last case you mentioned, which case was that? Joanna?
I think it's reference to the exercise.
Which exercise?
About it being an expensive problem.
Is that the healthcare one?
The one before.
Oh, the medical education.
Oh, medical education
thing. So, so good question. So again, expensive. You could argue whether this is an expensive problem or not, but remember, he's going into businesses, and a lot of these businesses need, it's a primary care service, right? So they need their staff to be trained at a certain level, usually for regulatory issues. If they're not trained, then that's a problem, usually because they have to outsource it themselves. That costs them money. Yes, yeah. I mean, I hope that makes sense. So it's a CQC requirement for them to have a certain level of training for their staff in the primary care service. If they don't have that, they don't really have a business. That makes any sense.
I have in my I think the idea I have in my head is a very specific thing regarding severe mental illness, and about how some things are done in that context. And I think my perspective is that I don't think that is well done in a sense, but it's done, but it's still a requirement. So I wonder if that will be enough to, you know, to be an expensive problem, if you could show how it could be done better. Does it make sense?
Yeah, and it depends. The expensive problem is a subjective one, and this is why it's so important to do the market research.
Yeah.
Your clients will tell you if it's an expensive problem.
Okay. Yeah.
They won't say it in that way, but they'll say that you will touch on some pain points with them, but they'll say, oh God, yeah, you know, or they'll just tell you this is a huge problem we're having in the mental health side of things, blah, blah, blah. They won't say, oh, it's an expensive problem. But then you say, well, how big is this problem? And, you know, what does that cost you day to day? They may not say, oh, it costs X, Y, and Z. It might say it costs us time. Time is always linked to money. It may cost us, I don't know, patience. It may cost us contracts. That's all money. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense, Joanna? Yeah. But it's also important to kind of guide them if they're not like fully aware about the greater cost. A lot of companies aren't, they see it kind of day to day. They don't really see the greater cost. So part of your job is to help them see the greater cost. All right, that's part of your job as a consultant.
That's the answer to my question.
Yeah. So like patients,
so that's part, we can look at it as part of the expensive bit,
I'll talk
even
about
if you have to explain why it's expensive.
Yeah, I'll talk about this next bit, but actually your job is to guide them to becoming unaware to like aware. of some of their problems, but we'll talk about that. But really great question. Any other questions on that section in general? So Aline said, guess you could get CPD accreditation. Is that James himself or offering that out? Again, you know, CQC requirements, depends what they need, but yes, that would be valuable to those kind of companies. Right, no one else is saying anything else. I'm assuming everyone's happy. So finding clients that will pay. Right, so we talked about niching, we talked about business planning. So if you get those first two things right, the rest of it will be relatively easier for you. If you don't get it right, it will be more of a challenge and a bit of an uphill slog. These things generally are an uphill slog, I have to say, just to manage your expectations. They can be, unless you're really, really lucky. But it's so important that you get those first 2 points right. So knowing what niche you're working in and just doing a very high level, use that lean canvas business plan. Doesn't need to be War and Peace, but at least you would have thought about it and do a bit of market research to back it up. So this helps you then target the right clients that you want to work with. That saves you time, it saves you money, and it also increases your service cost, your service pricing, because these people are more likely to find you valuable than other people. That makes any sense. So selling, it's really important to have a strategy to go with this. And one of our first masterclasses of the year was about how to sell yourself. A very important masterclass to have attended. And that's also available if you're a member, and also we've got it on the website if you're a non-member, if you want to check that out. So it's really important to know how to sell yourself, to clarify what you do and understand the problems that these companies face, so you can provide various solutions or guide them to a solution, and really make sure that they feel great about their problems being solved. So just to be clear, this is not something you'll be able to do overnight. It's a skill, just like becoming doctors, becoming specialists. It's a skill that's taken years. And this is something I would 100% say you invest in this, because it's going to be your fallback option. Like, for example, one of my goals in life is to not need my GMC number and be able to earn a high income without my GMC number. And that will happen hopefully soon at some point. But you get my drift. Like, it's such an important fallback option for you, regardless of where you are in your career. Even if you decide, hey, you get a job in industry, you decide, hey, this job really sucks ass, I want to move on, but you have to wait for the next job before you move on because of salary, right? But hey, you don't have to do that. You can say, well, I'm just going to work for myself for a few months, whatever, until the next job comes along. I'll test the market. I'll work for several companies, blah, 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 blah. So you don't have to stick to a job that you don't like. This is why the skill is so important. And a lot of it is learning as you go and trial and error. So the more you do this, better you'll get, right? Sales funnel, I'm not going to go into that in any detail, but just so you know, when anyone mentions the word leads, these are people who potentially that you've identified could work with you. Prospects are people that potentially could be your clients and they've expressed some degree of interest in what you do. And customers, someone who's actually working with you or a client. And you'll hear the sales funnel being banged on about in various shapes and sizes, but just so you're aware of what that is. Lead generation is about the process of finding new clients. And it's so important, especially as a consultant, again, depending on how much work you're looking for, that you proactively do this as part of your overall marketing strategy. It's really important to, even if you're kind of like, building your network, having conversations, always keep your ear to the ground, because there will be opportunities that come up that you could potentially jump into, right? And you'll find, especially if you're going into consulting and spending more of your time or leaving medicine for a bit, you'll find that actually, like medicine, most of our work is admin, and like a tiny proportion of it is actual clinical. It's the same working as non-clinical consultant. The work that you do, you love it, but it's not the most of the work you do. Most of it is actually building up your network, having conversations and finding leads and new prospects. And just to be clear, you don't need to go and dance on social media to do this. Some of the best consultants I know don't use social media at all. They use word of mouth referrals. And how do they do that? Because they've built up their credibility. they're very clear on what they do, and they know how to ask for a referral, right? You don't need social media for it, but it helps, especially if you don't have that network, right? So there are many ways to generate leads. It's important to find out which type of generation works for you. As I said, social media works for a lot of people, but not for everybody. Deciding to go in and do some teaching and training works for some people, not for everybody. Asking for referrals, group sessions is another way to get leads, especially if you're building up a business and you're looking for potential clients. Direct outreach is a very good way to do a B2B, business to business. So there are so many different ways. It's just finding out what is the right way for you. Where can you find potential clients? Everywhere and anywhere. That is a summary of that slide. And the most important part of this is making sure that you leverage what's around you now today, right? So your family, your friends, your existing network, your current work colleagues, wealth of information and connections. And again, you know, you're like, well, I don't want to talk to anyone at work, but I mean, everyone knows everyone, and the right people will want to support you in your journey. They want to support you, right? We're doctors, we like helping people. That's why we're here, right? So in order to get the best quality referrals, speak to people who can advocate for you, right? So they are going to be your champions to get into the job, right? So this consulting business is all about people and people. Don't get caught up with this slide. I kind of briefly talked about it. You'll find once you get talking to potential prospects, you've got people who know what you do, know how you can help them, and they just want to know how much it costs, right? And those are the great people, because then you can have a really good conversation with them, and it's most likely to convert to an actual sale or somebody you can work with. And then you've got people who have no idea of the problem they're facing. They don't understand the problem. They don't even know it exists. You can see their problem, they can't see their problem, and they don't know what you do. I would say from a time perspective, stay away from those people, because it takes a lot of time to educate them into understanding what that problem is. And it's spectrum, and you'll see a whole range of these, from those who know what the problem is, but they don't know what you're doing and how that helps solve their problem, and et cetera, et cetera. But the key principles you need to remember today is you need clarity on what you offer. So again, niche it down and be clear on what you're offering. Clarity on who you're going to be offering it for. Be very targeted in who you go for, right? Again, that saves you a heck of a lot of time. Make sure that when you're looking for your prospects, it's something that you enjoy doing. So if you don't enjoy it, it's not gonna work out, because it can take a lot of work. You may be lucky, you may ask one person and Bob's your uncle, it's done. Those are the lucky people, but they didn't get to learn the actual realities of the process. And just make sure that once you've found someone you can potentially work with, or a company you can work with, make sure you've got a clear ask for them. So in the incubator, we talk about the call to actions, called CTA. What is the best call to action? So when we find a prospect in MedicFootprints, it's like, hey, love what you're doing. I noticed you did this. We'd love to have a call just to find out more about you. Would you like to have a call in the next week? All right. So my ask is, can we get you on a call? There may be other asks, such as, can you email me and then we'll book a time, or can you DM me, or connect with me, or join my masterclass, or join my mailing list, or fill in whatever it is. There needs to be a very specific invite to move things through, to get them closer to you selling to them, right? You'll find that specific call to actions will increase your conversion. If you don't make the ask or an invite, it's like having a birthday party, right? You say, hey, I'm having a birthday party, but no one's going to come unless you invite them, really. They can't assume that you want you to come, right? You have to specifically invite them, and then they're like, okay, cool, you want me to come? Right, I'll see whether I'm free, blah, 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 blah. Same kind of analogy, right? And we talk about history taking, right? As doctors, we have a structure. This is basically when you come into a sales call or a conversation, we have a structure already that's ingrained in our minds as the questions we want to ask our patients, right? So that we can diagnose what the problem is, and then we can do further little investigations as necessary, and then we prescribe, this is what we can offer you to help you solve that problem. It's exactly the same thing when it comes to finding someone to work with or finding a company to work with, right? And the quality of being able to get to the right prescription that they will take is the history taking bit. So it's the questions that you ask. So this will also help you to understand whether they're the right clients for you, whether you're able to genuinely help them, whether you actually want to help them, because some companies you might be, I'm not going to help them. They are completely chaotic and I don't want to go anywhere near them. That's happened to us several times. But so this is part of your screening process as well. But again, making sure you understand the depth of their problem and the value of their problem to them. If they don't really see the problem, if they don't really value that it's a big problem, you're not going to be able to sell to them, no way. Right? So it's important to have a script. And that's something that you can create yourselves. We also have a script that we give to our incubator members. And practice, 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 just like everything else. And the scripts, they're not difficult. It's just asking questions that you know will help you get to the bottom of the challenge that they are potentially facing. I mean, even just I'm using writing, medical writing. So for example, you see a lot of health tech companies who are looking for writers. Why? Doctors as writing, because they want the content to be medically accurate and verified by a doctor. And it's very difficult because the doctors they work with are busy doing other things. So it's difficult to find someone who understands how to write, understands online copy, understands how to write medically, but also can write for search engine optimization purposes as well, because that's important to them. That's just using an example. So if you understand the depth of their problem, they would say, oh, we'll pay you X for it. You'll say, well, actually, I think this is what my fees are, because this is what your problem is. And that puts you in a really great negotiation standpoint. And that makes sense. Quiet, is everyone still here? I don't know. Got people coming in and out. If somebody asks us to write an article, how do we respond? Repaying us, or do we say it costs X? Again, Sandrine, I would say this is an opportunity to find out more about what exactly they want you to do and why is it important to them. And this is your job to really understand, like, what is it? Is it literally an article? There's always some reason behind this article. Why are they asking you? Why aren't they doing it in-house? Right? There's always money attached to it. And your job is to find where that value is and then try and determine what that value is before you say, okay, this is what it costs. I'll talk about pricing just shortly, but it's better not to jump in and say, hey, it costs this, unless you literally have no time and you don't really care. And it's like, I've got loads of jobs. If you want me, this is what it costs, right? Okay, cool. These are examples of doctors we've supported and how they found non-clinical consulting opportunities. Even the other day, one of them said, I got talked to a founder at one of the conferences earlier this year, now advising for a medical advisory company. QI projects are a really great way in to demonstrate how you can do things for organizations. So guys, a lot of the stuff we do for free in our jobs, presenting QI projects, audits, research, people will pay you to do that, right? They'll pay you to do it. It's a huge value outside of the NHS, right? So think about it and experience there. So yeah. Exercise 2, we're not going to do this live, but I do want you to think about this for yourself, because I really want every single person in this room to get started on their consulting journey tomorrow, whether that is thinking about your niche, filling in that lean canvas we touched upon earlier. I want you to think about what 3 action points could you take to get to a conversation. It's a conversation, you have to sell to them, but it's a conversation, because conversations lead to sales. Conversations leads to work, right? Without that, it's quite difficult to get to it, I promise you, right? So what 3 action points could you take to get to a conversation with your first potential prospect? So Ola, you've got this travel business. Could you give us some examples of what 3 action points, up to 3, it doesn't have to be 3, that you could take to get a conversation with someone that you would want to on board?
So I'd go through my own network, friends, family. I would also use my social media into creating content to attract my ideal avatar and start conversations on the back of that.
What would be your call to action from the social media?
is to, well, it depends on what I'm putting out in that piece of content, but just a generic one. If you're interested in finding out more, then send me a message or fill out this expression of interest form, or give me a call on X. I won't put my number on social media, but you get the gist. Be specific with a call of action.
Great. So I mean, those are just examples of how you can be specific and inviting people in to talk to you. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I've been more explicit about it myself. Again, I'm also learning, right? I'm sharing my learnings with you guys. I'm also learning on how to get more conversations as well. And they have all been really fruitful. And when you think about using LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a platform for conversations. It's not like Facebook. Facebook, you can have conversations, but you're kind of hanging out. LinkedIn is a tool. Talked about this in our LinkedIn masterclass a month ago. It's a tool to get conversations, sales, jobs, you name it. But that's the key. You've got to use it as a tool rather than kind of sit there and expect things to happen. People will come to you as well, which is awesome, but don't expect that, is all I'm saying. You need to go out there and get it yourself and invite people, right? Be inviting. Any questions on that section before we get to the final bit? Anything that didn't make sense? Anything that was like, not sure about that. Lots of food for thought. Yeah, and I've said there is a lot of content here. I don't expect you to remember everything, and it's an introduction to it. So it's really important that you get the recording, rewatch it, and also book in a call with us to talk about your specific circumstances, so we can help guide you to best next steps if that's something that you're trying to work out. Okay, so the final bit is how to maximize your earnings. So as I mentioned, it's so important to really position yourself in, well, actually I haven't mentioned it specifically, but I've alluded to it quite a lot, is as doctors, we have a very unique standpoint in industry, and we're very highly qualified in what we do. And we've got a huge amount of transferable skill sets that a lot of companies are screaming for. They're screaming for it, honestly, right? But they can't offer the number of jobs for the number of doctors they need. So this is why non-clinical consulting is, again, another way in to kind of get into companies on a less committed basis until the job becomes available, right? So, you know, we don't want to rely on waiting for a job for the earnings, and you can actually get better earnings working for yourself than you can doing a job. So talking about this case study, so Harry, he's a surgeon and he's working for he's consulting from a med tech company. He's been asked to work with them on a project for the next 6 months for 1 day a week. And they ask him what it costs. So how much should he charge? That's always a question we get asked. Yeah, I've been asked to do this. What should I charge? How should he charge? And what options does he have when it comes to actually positioning himself and charging? There are different ways of doing that, right? This is a whole other like PhD, by the way, guys, but I'm just introducing a new concept to you that you may or may not be aware of. If you are aware, I'll put your hand up now. So charging too much, we're always concerned that charging too much means no sales. Charging too little means you don't really earn enough for the time that you've put in and that you really deserved, and then you end up being overworked and overwhelmed, right? So most of you will think about charging per hour or on a day rate, which is the commonest way that you'll see people charging for their time, which is reasonable. I do this for sessional work. For occupational medicine, I charge on a day rate, right? But the challenge with charging per hour is that it trains your clients to believe that your value is based on the time that you work, not the actual value that you're producing for them. So the truth is that that's not what the real value is. As I said, it's basically the transformation that you're offering them, and that the expensive problem you're helping them solve, you are providing a huge amount of value by getting that problem solved for them. And that is more valuable than the time that you spend doing it. And the idea is that you don't spend as much time as the value if you had to do it per hour, right? So if hourly pricing is, we can do, if we kind of think of another option to hourly pricing, we've got retainer pricing, right? You would have heard of retainer pricing. This is the only picture I could find to illustrate a retainer, guys, hence this picture. But with retainer, you usually charge a certain amount, usually a month, right? And you're retained. So you may be doing work in that time, you may not be, but it's a great way to get recurring revenue, right? And you can always agree how much work or what a package you're offering in that time. So it's important when you do offer this on a retainer that you are boundaried, because it's so easy to offer more than you really are charging. That's right. Yeah. And also it's a great arrangement, because you're not determined, like if you want to take leave, take a day off here and there, go on holiday, you don't have to be like, well, I have to cut my salary or my income because I'm going away. Retainer means that you just get paid regardless, because you can always do it at another time, right? But when we talk about value-based pricing, this is great because it is really focused on your worth. It can be very specific to the project you're doing and aligned with the key elements that they want to try and get out of it. It allows you to position your services based on the pricing and the results that you're helping your clients to get, right? So it changes any conversation you have on the pricing, on the sales bit, from, you know, what you're worth to actually the value of what you're providing and or your time, right? So the client stops thinking about you as per the hour and actually what this person doing and helping our company, right? And usually it works in a better win-win for everyone involved, and they take you more seriously. And the clients that do pay you for this, they tend to be easier clients to work with, I have to say. They are definitely easier clients. So this knowledge empowers you to make better and intelligent decisions around how you price your services and leads to better outcomes. So an example of this is, so actually going back to Harry. So Harry, he's got a day rate of 500 quid a day. So he's working 1 day a week. So that averages 2K a month. Then over 6 months, it's 12K. Over 6 months, it's not too bad. I mean, I'm not complaining. I wouldn't mind being Harry, to be honest. I wouldn't mind being Harry. Got 6 months of work, 12K in the bank. Not bad. It's still more than you get if you do the same amount of time for the NHS. All right. But we've got Anita. So she is a junior doctor. She consults for the same medtech firm. So she asks a few more questions and has a few more detailed conversations. And she finds out that her involvement in this particular project will mean that they are able to sell their product to the NHS at 3 million, right? So she asks, like, what is your budget for this? For her involvement, right? And how much support do they want? Are they looking for? And what would it mean if with her involvement in this project? What would it mean for them? Part of that's the 3 million, part of that's the credibility, part of that's the network, all of those things that she can help them achieve. So having assessed the amount of time that would be required, the kind of work that she's doing, she decides to charge 30K for that same project in the same time frame with a clear set of deliverables. Right, so this is £18,000 more than Harry for this example. Right, and it's to illustrate that it's not about her seniority. She's a junior doctor here, right? It's about what value she was able to demonstrate by understanding the impact of her work and the pain points that this company faced. So with this deal, she's not fixed to the time. She can literally do a day's worth, and as long as it allowed them to achieve their goals, she still gets that 30K in the bank, right? I mean, she's probably not going to do that, but the reality is that that's what it's about. So she's had a conversation to test the waters with her potential clients, manage their expectations, and assesses kind of what she's willing to offer for that fee. If they go and say, hey, man, Anita, that's way too expensive. Say, okay, cool, that's fine. I can offer this lower price package at a lower price, and it could get you to sell you, it could help you sell to the NHS, but it's less of my input, but that could still help you get the goal that you want, right? And then they decide, oh, do we pay her for more so we can guarantee a better outcome, or do we pay her less and get our 3 million another way? It's up to them to make that decision, all right? But she's having more intelligent conversations with potential clients that way. So yeah, some clients have like predetermined packages. So you'll see like some people, I'll have the silver package or the gold package or the platinum package, depending on what service you're selling. And you can design those services exactly how you want, but just be clear that you differentiate that according to the price point that you're choosing. Don't forget you're worth it. I always recommend that you adopt a premium pricing strategy if you really want to save time on your clinical consulting and non-clinical consultant, because you're doctors, and I mentioned you're highly credible, lots of transferable skills, and a hugely valuable network. When people say things are expensive, it's because they don't really understand the value that you're offering, and it may be the wrong client, or you just haven't articulated it well enough. Hence why the niching and the business planning and understanding the problem, taking a great history, are the key factors to getting you to then communicate that value. You'll realize that it doesn't really matter what you charge, it's just whether they see the value in it, right? As I said, having one great client is better than having several that don't pay you much. And sorry, I jumped over really briefly. So very briefly on pricing strategies. When you're starting, you may say, hey, I'll go in low just to get in and get my experience. That's absolutely fine. That's what we call penetration pricing. Some people might say, I'll do it for free just to get the experience. That's absolutely fine. Some of you say, I want to price according to like my salary. I want to be able to leave my job and be earning the same amount as my job in like a fraction of the time. You go in and use that strategy. Or you say, hey, I don't really have much time for this. I want to charge what I want. I don't care whether I get the job or not. I'm just going to charge, go high, and the right client will come along and pay what I want. That's also another strategy. So it's important just to be aware there's different ways of going into this. And yeah, I didn't talk about doing a website. I didn't talk about social media. I didn't talk about how to set up your limited company, because those are the easiest bits of it. And actually, those are the bits that distract you from actually going to sell your services and doing the work. So that's why I did not focus on this in the masterclass. But if you have some burning questions on these, we can talk about that in the one-to-one strategy. The most important bits about this is what I've talked about in this masterclass so far. That is what's going to get you to non-clinical consulting, not doing a website. Most people will start without a website. Most people don't need a website. Don't distract yourself with the technical. Just get on it, start planning, be smart, and go for it. And always get an accountant and a financial advisor. Those are the other two things I always say. Make sure, if you don't know the money, most doctors are really crap at money, including me. Get people that know about the money to help you make better decisions. Also, if you're worried about pricing and how that matches with your income, get some advice on that. And yeah, so we've covered everything. If you don't remember anything, that's fine. You get to rewatch this. Remember, key things: have a focus in a niche, have a plan, business plan, understand the depth of that problem so that you can sell yourself to the right kind of clients, and be consistent and persistent. It may take you longer than others. Everyone is different. Everyone's got different goals. Everyone's got different challenges. Everyone's got a different network. Doesn't mean you're any less than the other person, but keep going, because you will. This is a skill that I believe every single doctor needs. Every single doctor, regardless of whether you're like, I'm going for employed jobs the rest of my life, at some point this would be hugely valuable to you to learn and to get comfortable with, so you have options. So we're now at 8:30. Hooray! Time. So as you know, next steps are book a strategy call with us. Send us an email whenever you're ready to do so. We are committed to getting you started, because the most difficult bit is getting started, right, on your consulting journey. Come with some burning questions, but please, to get the most of that time, please spend some time going through those exercises, choosing your niche, doing your business planning, and yeah, thinking about what your next action points could be, and then we can work from there. We can help you better once you've done those things, but feel free to ask any questions on that. So has anyone got any questions before we start to wrap up? I know it's a lot. Maybe say, oh, I know all this. If anyone does anyone know all of this? I want to make sure that I'm kind of, you're in the right place because you've learned something today. It's all new. Well, hey, because some of the time it's great to kind of be told what you know, just to validate what you know, right? That you're doing the right things. Does one really need to pay a CV company to make it ATS friendly? What does that mean? Is that how management consultancy? Okay, sorry. Oh, okay, applicant tracking system friendly. Is that what you mean? I personally think that's bollocks. Don't pay anyone to do your CV in that way. CVs, I think maybe in the next few months I'm going to go on a campaign which will be hashtag dump the CV, just because yes, a lot of companies still want them, yes, consultant companies want them, but that is not going to be the main deciding factor as to whether you get a job or not. As you know, a lot of consulting firms will have their what's it called, MCQs, their quizzes, their assessments, and then they'll look at your CV, and everyone's CV is different. So don't pay a company to make it ATS friendly if that's something. I've not heard of that before. It's quite interesting. Yeah, that will catch fire, I suspect.
Sounds like someone has found a niche in ATSing CVs, but it's quite the wrong niche, I would say.
Maybe people see it's an expensive problem. No worries, Shah. Any other questions? Any other questions? Whilst we're here, you got any questions, Ola?
No, I don't.
Great. So I want to hear from everyone in the chat box before we go. What are going to be your next steps? Or what have you taken from this masterclass today? So before we go, I want to make sure that you've all been listening. What are your next steps, or what are you taking from this masterclass? Lean canvas. Yes, Carla. Thank you. Fired up. I'm really glad to hear that, Gabrielle. I'm going to be more networking. That's not English, Lauren. Define my niche more precisely. Great, Tim. Lean canvas. This has been brilliant. Thank you so much. Finding your niche, Bridge. I think you've got a niche. I think you've got a great niche to explore there. Blessing. Niche. Use a retainer. Great, Emma. Niche research. Great. Reinforces what I plan. Hasanthi, I'm really glad to hear that. I really want to have a chat with you. Thank you. Finding a niche. I'm going to just launch now. Just needed a push. I want to know what you're going to do, Shah. Tell us. Great. I'm so pleased that you found some value in today. Remember, the value does not end there. We want to hear from you. We'll have a one-to-one with you. And as you know, we've got our incubator. It's a 12-month flexible program for doctors who want to get into industry faster. We've got our masterclasses, we've got our group sessions, we've got everything else we throw at them, because it takes time. A lot of this is actually about the mindset. It's about the day-to-day problem solving of the challenges you face and not feeling alone in that process. That's what it's all about. It takes time. Remember, we trained as doctors 5-6 years from medical school, 1 billion years to become specialists. Like, this is just 1 year, just try and move into industry. But reality is it will take you a lot longer to get confident and comfortable. This is what this is about. You don't get this anywhere else. So if you want to find out more, that's the link for that. And yeah, Shah says global health consulting for companies, but also to help doctors who want to experience rural medicine. That sounds really interesting. I want to see you do it. So yeah, thank you. Any other points to add? Is there a timeline for the strategy call? Do you want us to know? Because August is like a quiet month for us. So we're going to be really nice and say, just email us. If you've been on this, we know you've been on this. Just send us an email whenever you're ready. We're going to be, we're going to try and go on holiday and take a little bit of downtime because it's been an intense year. So take your time, guys. Take your time. Thank you. And thank you for listening. Any other things, let us know. Please give us some feedback as well. We really appreciate that. What we're planning in the next few months, we've got a MedTech roundtable that I'm in the process of organising. We've got a money challenges for doctors moving to industry. How do you plan your finances? I don't know, so I'm getting someone else to do it, right? There's a whole lot of really exciting things going on. So we really hope you can join us. Have a wonderful evening. And thank you. We'll be sending you the link in the next day, maybe later, depending on how long the ad takes. But please rewatch this. as much as you can, and just ask questions. That's what we're here for. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. Have a great evening.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Ola. Bye.